What's up? I'm Drew Paul Bell, and in this video, what I want to talk about is what we find beautiful. So, I read this book in my 5th year of architecture school called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. And in this book, he explains how habits really drive our behaviors in several ways. And one of the stories stood out to me in particular from a design perspective. He told the story of the song called Hey Ya by Outkast, which came out back in 2004 or 5 or 6, I forget. But so the song was actually a pretty big hit a while after it came out. But when it initially they started playing it on radio, at the very beginning, all the people in radio were like, "Oh, this is gonna be a huge hit. This doesn't sound like anything else out there. It's so fresh and so awesome." But they actually had the technology to know when people changed the radio stations, and they actually found out that people changed away from that song a lot. And so, with the theme of habits, the theory is that the reason why people didn't like it was that, or the reason why people switched away wasn't because they listened to it and they really decided that they didn't like it. It was because it didn't sound like anything else. They couldn't just make an assumption about it immediately. They didn't have a habit of listening to that, so they didn't listen to that. And see, a lot of pop songs sound the same. There's YouTube videos that show how many songs are played on the same chords. Basically, you've already made a decision about a lot of the music that you like, and because this thing comes out and is new, you haven't decided and you don't know, and so you change the station. Rather than burning the mental energy of deciding that you like something, you just change it. Another thing is that people would rather listen to something that they know they don't like than to listen to something brand new and have to decide, oh, do I like this or not? They did this with studies and stuff, dudes would rather listen to Celine Dion knowing that they don't like Celine Dion than to listen to some brand new song that's doesn't sound like anything else and that they've never heard of before, because it burns more mental energy. They don't really know if they like it or not. So what they ended up doing to make it a big hit was they actually would sandwich it between two songs on the radios that sounded kind of generic or sounded just like everything else. So they'd put it between two. They'd play a song by Maroon 5, and then they would play Hey Ya, and then they would play a song by Justin Timberlake or something. And by couching it between these two things that did sound similar, then it sort of made it a little bit easier for people to take. And then next thing you knew, they eventually built a habit around actually listening to this song. And then it got them to listen to it long enough that they would kind of form an opinion about it, and then they could actually keep listening to it. So how do you reconcile the story with what we try to do as artists, right? Because as artists, aren't we supposed to try to push the envelope and do new things and all this stuff and do crazy out there stuff, things I've never seen before? And in a way, that is kind of bullshit. Anything that we do, there are things in the world that are crazy and out there, and they seem like a big leap. But in reality, it's never completely severed from what happened before. So anything so you look at someone say Frank Gehry or Zaha Hadid's buildings. These are two architects that had a very distinct style, and a style that I would say is very separated from anything else that's being built. But even in their buildings, there is sort of a certain kind of familiarity, a certain recognition that you see of things buildings do. If you look at Frank Gehry's building at Bilbao, the museum, you look at the building and you have your guess about where the entrance is. Funny enough, I don't think that's actually where the entrance is, as someone who visited told me. But in a way, you still look at this, and this isn't something that's totally devoid of all context. This isn't devoid of all buildings ever built before, ever. And neither is the architecture you're doing. And is it probably exactly because you look at, say, Frank Gehry's buildings, and they are very separated from sort of the lineage, right? Everything that came before. Is exactly that separation that makes a lot of people uneasy, in the same way that the song Hey Ya made people uneasy at first. And does that mean that, if we just put it between enough ranch-style houses, maybe we would get used to it again? I don't know, probably not. But who knows? I don't know, maybe, But do we want that? I don't know. That's not the point. The point is that with anything that you do, I think as artists, especially as students, I think we are fed the idea that you're going to do something new, do something crazy, take like these other things, and like put them together and make something new that I haven't seen before, make me excited. And that's probably a cool exercise, but what else is impressive is taking something that is familiar, something that is like tried and true and tested, and taking that and improving it just to make it beautiful, make it a little bit classier than it used to be. Like one thing that my boss does, Robert M. Kane, he's been adamant about, I mean, throughout his career, he's always focused on the idea of like refining the Southern vernacular. The Southern vernacular is this sort of like architectural style that a lot of people would not call sexy, but he takes this thing and fuses it with modernism in a way that, like some of the tenets of modernism in terms of like clean lines and sort of like an economy of materials, like he finds ways to make it very modern. And it's like, but look at it for what it is. Like, it is this thing, it's Southern vernacular, a very established and very like traditional way of building things, and just reimagining it in a new way. Like, it's not some like huge leap onto like this other idea. Like, it's completely devoid of everything that ever came before. No, it's taking this idea of something that's very familiar to people, something that resonates with human beings because of what they've grown up in, and then just improves it to be more clean and nicer and more beautiful and classier and sexier. And it's like these are the kinds of things that you can change in architecture and in design. Don't get all caught up in the idea of doing something that no one's ever done before. Do something that like other people did, and just do it better. Maybe do it your way, and refine that. Don't just take the first iteration, because it's easy enough to be like, oh, I'm just gonna like take this thing that everyone's always done and just like tweak it one little bit. Boom, that's my thing. And that's not gonna be enough, right? You have to like keep tweaking it and make it better and better. But like, that's the way that you make something awesome that resonates with a lot of people. I don't like talking about these video blogs objectively too much, but for example, I'm making YouTube videos in a way mentoring students to do better at architecture. Mentoring students to do better at architecture and YouTube videos are neither of those two things are new, but there's not a lot of people out there who are doing what I'm doing with these videos. There's other people who are doing similar things in a way. Like I did a collaboration video kind of with Sketchaway Ray. I found 30 by 40, a few other like channels I think are similar, but yet they're not quite doing what I'm doing. And I think that's in a way what makes this really beautiful, because YouTube videos isn't a new concept. Something that if you're watching this, you've probably have experience watching other YouTube videos, and now it's just like this kind of like going down the river. This is one little branch coming off that's gonna be about YouTube videos and architecture. And this resonates. YouTube videos about architecture in 1970 wouldn't have ever taken off. Like that, it's gotta be kind of within context. So, all right, so I hope this helps. This idea in this book was a very interesting one to me. It's something that I've actually been kind of mulling on for the last couple of years, and I still kind of struggle to reconcile that sometimes. The thought that people aren't going to value like the total cutting edge thing. But in a way, it actually makes sense. So anyway, I hope this helps. Let me know what you think about this in the comments down below. If you have anything to add to this conversation, I'd love to hear it, because like I said, like this idea is something that I've kind of been thinking about for a long time, and I would love to hear some more discussion, some other perspectives on it. Let me know. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you next time.